Italy going into World War I is going to be in an interesting place. Having been only recently united, the country was still mainly rural and held very little amounts of industrial power, much like Russia. It was surrounded by then three of the strongest great powers: Austro-Hungary, Germany, and France. This would leave them in a horrible position for expansion, and expansion is something that Italy desired. In order to try to manifest some of these desires, Italy would enter a war called the Italian-Turkish War. This war would be fought in northern Africa, and while eventually they would win the war against the Ottoman Empire and conquer the area known as Libya, it would be at a horrible cost of life and a giant deficit to their war budget, which would in turn make Italy not have enough money to really fund any military ambitions for some time afterward. So, this would leave Italy in a place where it needed to find some friends in the world. They would find these friends in the form of the Central Alliance, a military alliance formed between two great powers, Germany and Austria, as well as Italy. It was signed as a defensive alliance that if any side were attacked, then all sides would rush to protect each other. The main reason Italy signed the agreement was to protect itself against its neighbor, France. However, when war broke out in 1914, the Italians would not rush to the side of their so-called allies, instead declaring themselves neutral in the conflict. Why was this? Well, as I said earlier, the Italian government still really couldn't afford a war, and the alliance was a defensive one, and Austria had struck first against Serbia. However, there was another large factor influencing this decision: Italian nationalism, also known as Italian irredentism. Austria still held control over many lands that held an Italian majority, and the continued dislike the Italian populace held for Austria that lingered from the Second Italian War of Independence, and the fact that they had been historic enemies with each other, it is really no surprise that many Italians called for these lands to be returned to Italy and for a war to be started against Austria. And while Austria did try to promise some of these lands returned to Italy, the Allies could promise far more. And with this, we arrive at the Treaty of London, a secret pact signed in 1915 that promised the Italians almost all of the land that the nationalists desired, which included parts of Dalmatia, numerous islands along the Adriatic coast, an Albanian city in Vlorë, and a central protectorate in Albania, as well as some thrown-in territory from the Ottoman Empire. In exchange, the Italians would have to join the war on the side of the Entente. The Entente wanted Italy to join the war to open a new southern front and hopefully be able to do massive gains into Austro-Hungary and potentially take them out of the war far earlier. So, on May 23, 1950, Italy would declare war on Austro-Hungary. The Italian front with Austria was large, stretching 600 kilometers. However, it was almost completely mountains and very hard for warfare. And the Italian war depth and weak industry meant that despite the fact that a lot of Italians wanted to fight, they really couldn't arm them. 1.2 million Italians would join the military in spring 1915, but they were only able to arm around 732,000, which is only slightly more than half. And while the Italian high command held this belief that the war would be quick and that they would be marching on Vienna by the end of the year, this was the beginning of a long and brutal front in the First World War. So I'll be making a series of videos that should be coming out every Friday. If I'm late, they'll be out on Saturday, that will be covering the Italian front in World War I over the next couple of weeks. If you are enjoying this series, make sure you hit the like, and if you have any comments that, fun little facts you want me to include in the video or that I missed, I would love to see them. This has been Christopher Beast, and I hope to see you all next time.